I don't know what time of day this finds you, but good day to you, wherever it is. Hopefully, you've got a coffee in hand, or you're enjoying something in the evening. We're always hoping with the Straits podcast to add value. And as as I was thinking about this, as we've been talking about it as a team, we went, you know what, Bryan is a fantastic add-on addition to this podcast. He has so much more value from a different perspective again, and in different perspectives are phenomenal. So please to introduce Bryan Lee for everyone here. Business manager, Concord Consultant. There's a lot of stuff that Bryan does, as you'll hear in a second. But yeah, Concord Consultant. He's an executive recruiter. He's a senior talent consultant. Bryan does a lot of stuff. He actually has a really unique background, and maybe that's where we'll start, Bryan. Maybe share a little bit about your background with everybody here.
Yeah, thank you for the warm introduction, Mark. Great to be on the podcast. Just a little backstory. I was talking to our president Mike and our CEO Dwayne, and I was just so astonished by the high caliber and quality of all of our participants, and just really excited to be here today and tell my story a little bit and talk about some of our services, but mainly really just to add value. I really like how you started it, because I think there's so much, I'll call it white noise in social media, and everyone thinks they're adding value, where it's just like 30 seconds in, you're like, oh, this is a time suck. Hit stop button. So great to be here. Long time listener, first time participant. So I spent 23 years in hotels and resorts. The first 10 years was in operations. My uncle is a retired area vice president for Hyatt Hotels, and he was a general manager for 25 years. So that was sort of my hotelier role model growing up. So he told me work as many departments as possible. And after working 8 different operational positions, I found HR after university, and I was just like, okay, I think this is it. I spent 13 years in human resources, 8 years at the director level. I have worked across Canada, in Ontario, British Columbia, and Alberta. Uniquely, I have also done, city properties, unionized work environments, and also resort properties. So very different nuance, and not a lot of hoteliers can really cross over, because it's such a different game, whether you're in city or in a resort town, like a destination resort. So just sort of a quick background.
I think I've said this maybe on one of the former interviews, but the hospitality industry is absolutely insane. If you can do that, you can kind of do anything. In my opinion, like if somebody, I own real estate. Real estate is a business in a box, simple as you get. I think the exact opposite extreme of that is hospitality on so many levels. I always look at people in hotels or restaurants and go, you are insane if you're getting into this. But I say it in a really complimentary way, because for me, I go, you have a skill set that is unbelievable compared to mine. I'm a simple guy in simple ways, and that skill set.
I wouldn't say that. Different strokes for different folks. But just to add on to that hospitality, I used to do a lot of guest speaker presentations at Ryerson University, which is now rebranded to MTC. I don't remember. It's another acronym. Anywho, I would always tell the students that you got to be a little crazy to work in hospitality, and you got to be a little bit more crazier to stay in for over 2 decades. I guess we're just hardwired differently. I'll say that.
Yeah. And the pace surprises me. The cool thing is you worked in HR. The craziest thing about hospitality is the turnover of people.
Yeah.
That's what's insane. So I think that's what brings such a unique voice or perspective today with what you're bringing. So this is the first question I'm going to ask, because this is something that we've talked about a number of times, and that is, how has the nature of recruitment changed? It's a very broad, general question. Go where you want with it. How has recruitment changed?
Yeah, I've been focused on recruitment for 13 years, and it's been a heck of a journey. At the fundamentals of recruitment, I mean, essentially, I kind of think of that book written by Good to Great, Jim Collins, and he talks about before you get the flywheel spinning, make sure you get the right people on the bus and make sure the right people are sitting in the right seats. And that's always been the hope and the goal of every recruitment initiative is how do I make sure that this resume is true, this individual can really have the capacity to excel in such a role, right? And over my 13 years of experience in recruitment, I've seen a lot of changes. I mean, if we were to start really high level, I like to study demographics just for kicks. That's just how I'm wired. And I look at like workforce generations between, the traditionalists, which is like my great grandparents, and the baby boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Y, Gen Z, now Gen A. And I think one of the biggest shifts I see a lot of employers struggle with is every workforce generation has its own unique set of values. And a lot of big box operations, doesn't matter which industry, they try to just create this one-stop shop that everyone's going to be happy. And it's just like, the world doesn't work like that. And, I think it was really evident during COVID where, everyone's remote work from home or these hybrid work environments, and they're trying to boost employee morale and employee engagement. A quick footnote, it's very clear in every hospitality hotelier's mind that strong employee engagement leads to strong guest engagement, which leads to higher profitability. I can't believe I still have to say that and prove it to other industries outside of hospitality. It's just wild in my mind. Anywho, I think we saw a lot of companies, like I said, try to do these one-stop shops, and they're trying to address this massive need in one singular form, and it doesn't work like that. So first point, workforce generation, value changes, companies not keeping up with that rhythm and rhyme, or ebb and flow, however you want to state it. I think another thing I've seen is, and this might be a shock to some people, but I truly believe the traditional recruiting model is fundamentally flawed. And I'll explain. AI is big news, right? It's everyone's talking about it. Everyone's asking, how can we leverage AI to improve effectiveness, efficiency? I mean, we're all chasing the same metrics. Bigger top line of revenue, reduce cost of goods, reduce labor costs, maintain or reduce your fixed costs, and improve, EBITDA. It's really the same game, right? Of every industry, every core of every organization, the same thing. You got sales and marketing, operations, and you got accounting, right? Like it's all the same. Like we might have a different spin on the game of a widget this big or a widget that big, but it's all the same. So what I've started to see, and a lot of people are starting to understand this new trend coming out, but you cannot rely on traditional recruitment process. So what is a traditional model? I, as an employer, let's say company XYZ, post a job description. I let the candidates funnel into my applicant tracking system. I got a recruiter or a recruitment coordinator reviewing the resumes, and you're just really quick scanning like a minute or two on each resume. And you're looking for these key competencies, right? And you see something you like, you see like, oh, plus 5 years of experience in XYZ field. And they've been at these big box operations for 5 years. Oh, they're not a job hopper. Great. They start with a phone screen, 10 minutes. Oh, I like the way you sound. You're chatty, I'm chatty. We're gonna have a great interview, so let's get you in person. Have the one-on-one interview, whether it's 30 minutes to an hour and a half or 2 hours, depending on the level of organization you're trying to fill. And you go through the work reference checks. No one ever gives a bad work reference check. Like, let's just call it what it is. Sometimes it's someone's uncle, sometimes it's someone's aunt. Like, it's, you got to be careful with work reference checks, right? And let's fast track to offer stage done, and the person starts. And then 2 weeks into the role, you're like, hey, I thought you told me you could make decisions. Hey, I thought you said you were fast paced. Hey, I thought you told me you were detail oriented. And when you kind of look at it, the grand scale, it's like, it's guessing. It's a 50-50 game, right? We all have this, what we call halo effect, like interviewer bias, that, oh, you're chatty, I'm chatty. So therefore we're going to make great colleagues. And we're making these very biased decisions based on our own perspective of what we think the role requires. And in today's world, everyone's looking for this magic unicorn. Oh, I need someone fast-paced. I need someone collaborative, and I need someone. It's a world of contradictory. I need you to be a strong leader to take control of the helm, but also do exactly what I say. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. Or I need you to be extremely sense of urgency, but also be methodical. And it's kind of like, it's contradictory. Like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, as the saying would go. So long story short, traditional recruiting process is fundamentally flawed, because what is happening is employers are taking the job description and they're putting into ChatGPT or Perplexity or Grok. There's over a dozen AI platforms. And they're like, hey, command prompt, you're an expert at marketing and blah, blah, blah. Create this really awesome job description, right? And then what do you think the candidates are doing? They're taking that exact same job description that was pumped out through AI, putting it back into the same AI platform and be like, hey, I really want this role. Create a really awesome resume. So following the bouncing ball, the recruiter is looking at resumes and they're like, oh, they use all of our key buzzwords. Like, oh, core values are strong that align with us, right? And then you get them into the interview face to face, and you're like, oh yeah, this is great. He can talk to talk, he can walk to walk, and I'm sure he's going to be a good fit. And it's a complete guessing game. So I don't want to pull out into traits, or I would say this: if you're not using a psychometric personality assessment tool, you are just guessing. And at best, 50-50. And I was an exceptional recruiter, I believe, but at best, 50-50. Because there was a lot of mishires. But now, in my executive recruitment practice, I tell this to all the prospects and clients, like, we don't guess, we measure. And it's a game changer. And I think if anyone who's listening, and if you are responsible for bringing on the right people onto the bus and making sure they're in the right seat, like, get with the times, look past resumes, and really look at these hardwired insights of what Psychometric has to offer. And I guarantee you, your business is gonna skyrocket.
It's interesting. You talked about kind of our best. When we're really good at things, we're getting it right maybe 50% of the time, especially in a high turnover industry like hospitality. I've got a guess about this. You tell me whether I'm accurate or not, because I've never worked in the industry. My assumption here is that if you've got people turn around all the time, there's almost this propensity to go, okay, this is just a fact. It's always going to be here. So instead of investing more time in getting things right, I'm just going to take whoever fits like A, B, C. If they cover these, I'll take anyone that can walk and talk, or depending on the job, what they can do or what they need, and go. This is what I'll go with. Is that accurate? Do people kind of simplify it and make it even worse for themselves?
I don't want to throw stones, but I mean, let's like, okay, so in a hospitality operation, I think there's going to be natural attrition, right? There's this natural attrition you cannot control. Like someone retires, someone gets sick, someone unfortunately passes away, someone has to relocate because of their significant other or their children or some reason. So I think there's always this natural attrition and turnover that we cannot control. Now, I believe there's a lot of turnover that can be not controlled, but managed. So to kind of split it out between city unionized properties versus resorts. Starting with the resorts, there is this natural cyclical seasonality, right? So I've used to manage two luxury golf resorts, and we'd go from 50 full-time employees to spike to 250, right? It's just this 200 seasonal employees, 4.5, maybe 5 months of just get them in, train them, pay them, treat them well. They get to enjoy the perks and benefits of working for a luxury golf resort. And then we're back to 50 come day after Thanksgiving. So that is very much the ebb and flow of resorts. For city properties, I do see a little bit more natural stability, and the talent pool in a metropolis like Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. You just have such a population density. It's not as hard to create a talent pool for said position. And I believe that if you can, I can't remember what book, but if you can measure it, you can manage it, right? And I believe that a lot of organizations are measuring the wrong KPIs because they just look at it as like, oh, this is how many we had come in and this is how many we had leave. So we're at a 10% turnover or we're at a 30% turnover. But they never really take the time to like put the foot on the brake, zoom out to big picture and say, okay, well, let's ask ourselves, why are people turning over? Right? And are they turning over because of this significant global event like COVID, which shut down hospitality, or do we have a bad leader in place? Or maybe we have a leader who's not a bad person, but they're in the wrong job and it's inadvertently creating more turnover. And they're not a bad person. They don't have like a poor moral compass, nothing to do with ethics or integrity. It's just wrong fit. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but that's sort of where my brain went with it.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense in a lot of different ways, Bryan. I'm thinking about, again, this changeover, because I think my original question was basically the changeover. Almost people want to manage it and simplify it on some way and maybe go the wrong way, which is what you're talking about at the end. But I like how you took it to, hey, we need to learn to manage this. It doesn't matter what the assumption, it doesn't matter what the business is. It doesn't matter how high the turnover rate is generally. We need to manage things in our own business. And the way you manage things is start creating metrics or use the metrics that are available to you, right? We have to measure something so that we can manage it is basically your point. I'm going to go back to something you said a little bit earlier. So I had a couple of notes in front of me here. Oh, one thing you started off with was generations. Yeah, different belief systems, different thought process, different strengths and weaknesses. What are you seeing? Let's choose an age group here. let's say 20 to 40 years old as of today, what are you seeing in the workplace, and how does recruitment need to have a rethink in order to maximize efficiency or value for hiring this age group right now? Because we're spanning generations.
I think it's important to let's first kick off and talk about. I don't like to. I hear a lot of like generations giving each other generations flack, like, oh, dang boomers or dang Gen Zs or dang millennials, and their work ethic is different, and they're looking for the easy ride, and it's not that simple. If you look at Stat Canada census, let's take 2021 because 2026 is be released in the next let's call it 5 months once they crunch all that data. A workforce generation or a generation is formed by collective experiences. So I'm a millennial. Elle is, of the millennials. The millennial generation runs from 81 to 96. Now, is there a couple of crossovers in there and a couple of smaller pocket generations? Sure, of course there is, but just on a broad spectrum. So let's take a significant event that happened in my lifetime. I was in high school. September 11th happens. I remember it clear as day. So how did that significant event as a collective experience change our whole or shape part of our generational's values? Increased security lines. Wait times are through the roof. We have these random checks. And it's almost like everyone's getting pulled over for a random check where they kind of like swab. Let me hit your belt buckle and, oh yeah, you're good to go. You're not a drug mule or whatever they're looking for, right? And as a generation, we're okay waiting 2 hours, showing up for 3 hours for an international flight, right? Because it's impacted our as a collective experience. I was just like, whoa, I don't want a fast track security. No. Well, I'm okay to wait. Everyone in our generation is okay to wait, right? So that's how I kind of look. I think that's the right lens to be reviewing workforce generations and in general first, as big subcategories. I hear your question, but I don't want to really pick on like the 20-year-olds, the 40-year-olds. I'll say this. It was really interesting. So Gen Z found themselves in a very unique situation, right? So they're in this like cohort that graduated from university or college during COVID. And some of them, like half of their, the last 2 years or year were complete remote learning. Right. And I can see you smiling. I think you know where I'm going with this. So they have never experienced work, right? Like it's just been, they were raised by the helicopter parents, whatever you want to call it, right? Just, Jimmy doesn't need to work right now, or Sarah can't work. She's got her ballet or figure skating or soccer practice, and work, there'll be enough time for work. Right now is a time to really shape their childhood experience and adolescence and so on and so forth to be a young adult. So this Gen Z was dealt a hand where through a unique circumstance of this collective experience of the significant event of COVID, remote studying, and then they start their first job remote. So all they know is this virtual world, right? And all of a sudden, COVID's over because it's become like the next flu. And what happens? You have this massive pushback from the big box operations in every industry saying, hey, remote work is over. I need you back in butts in the seats in your cubicle or you don't have a job. And I'm not going to label big box industries, but there's some who have been very outspoken of, I don't care where you put in your 40 hours, but if it's not at least 40 hours in this office, you're done. And it's really unfortunate that they can't zoom out and see the bigger picture of what is happening, that it's not their fault. It's not about poor work values or doesn't want to work hard. It's they were plugged in, and mind you, they were also born with a smartphone in their hand. Like the millennials, we saw the rise of technology. And that's why Gen Z generation don't know what 56K modem is. You know, you gotta log in, right? Like, mom, hey, hang up the secondary phone line. I'm losing connection. I can't play my video game, right? Like, that is completely, you know, remember like downloading something? And it's like, you know, just see that wheel spin. And it's like, oh, 20 minutes later, hey, I now have my picture from my homework assignment, right? Like,
sorry, can I interrupt for just a second, Bryan? Because yeah. I think that what you're describing has so much value for people. Because again, we tend to categorize, we tend to generalize. We say this generation is like this, and we assume the worst in a lot of generations if they're not us. And that's human propensity, psychology. We tend to say everyone like us is good, everyone unlike us is bad, right? That's just the way we go. But I like what you said here, because you said in your generation, waiting for a plane, we're waiting in security for 90 minutes or whatever, no big deal. And waiting for a modem in our day was no big deal. And yet waiting for, if we get a spinning wheel for half a second now on a plane, we go nuts, right? And I think that's really important, is that every one of us, every generation has certain things they'll wait for and things that they won't wait for. Every generation has things that we value and things that we don't value. I was talking to my kids. So I've got 17 and 15-year-old kids. Mm-hmm. And it's fascinating. Swearing, bad language, or whatever it was called in our day, 4-letter words, that is not a big deal at all in school right now. Like everyone and their dog swears. Teachers, it doesn't matter. And nobody thinks it's a big deal. No one is making a character judgment based on this. But make a racial slur, there is no place for that now, right? It's fascinating, even what we can talk about, what we can't talk about. And we had different things like that in every generation's day as well. So I think if I'm going the right place with where you're going, every generation has its, I'll call them quirks. And they're not good or bad. They have advantages and they've got disadvantages. And understanding who we're working with and then creating a space for them, but even interviewing in certain ways, changing how we do certain things, that's always going to be helpful as we learn. Sorry, maybe I'll summarize with saying we need to learn to adapt as we are recruiting, as we are making our hires, but also as we take care of our employees in different ways. Would that be accurate? Where would you go with that?
Yeah, it's adaptation is key. And just even, I'm not saying that it's not good or bad to, hey, if your employer, founder led, wants everyone in-house, 5 days a week, fine. But don't be surprised that your talent pool is smaller, because there's a high need for hybrid work environments. People across Canada made significant changes to their life by relocating further away from the metropolis, because apparently during COVID you could be in a Tim Hortons drive-thru for like 2 hours, and that was just too crazy, right? Like, so they made these significant changes and relocated, and housing costs, all these socio-economical reasons. It's just what it is, right? Push them further away, and now the employer's like, no, I need you back 5 days a week. And it's just, where's the transitionary period, right? And I find they look at people as disposable. Of like, yeah, you don't want the job? Like, it's like, well, what do you think happens for everyone else who stays? Where you treat people like that, and then now there's a culture, I wouldn't say a subculture that forms this fear of like, wow, I truly am replaceable. Rebecca worked here for 20 years. They didn't even give her consideration that she had to upturn her life because she couldn't afford to live in a downtown metropolis anymore. And she had to move further. And she was willing to move back, but she just needed a year because she has to sell the house and blah, blah, blah. You know the real estate game. It's just, I'm not buying high, selling low. Like, it's just bad economics, like, right? It's just stupid decision, right? And I don't want to call it being insincere, insensitive, but I find it very short-sighted from employers that treated their employees as these disposable cups and didn't even offer this transitionary period. And the ones who flexed and got off the 9 to 5, 40 hours a week in office and offered hybrid models, I willing to bet you a coffee that their attrition rates are a lot lower. And it didn't have this massive shock to their work culture.
Okay, I'm writing down a few questions as you're talking. I don't know if the audience can hear me clicking my pen here. One thing that stands out from what you're saying, and we started talking about recruitment. Right now, we're not. Right now, we're saying, I mean, obviously there is recruitment here, but saying, so we can adapt in our business to attract the right people, but how do we keep the right people? We need to, and then you use the word flex, adapt. I got kind of a dual question here. I'll maybe ask one side of it and I'll ask the other part later. But how can, what are some ideas? Because you see this every day and you're helping businesses with this. What is your advice to businesses on how to flex for the upcoming generations that they will be hiring at some point soon?
I'd love to have a crystal ball into that question, but I think it starts with, why don't you go and interview? Have these focus groups, buy lunch for a bunch of the Gen A's who are in high school, like your kids, and the Gen Z's, I think they're still exiting university, and catch them at a career recruiting fair and just have a candid conversation. And get the information for yourself. And you're going to start seeing these patterns evolve, right? And ask, what does a meaningful career look like to you, right? And create your own census data and take it back to your executive boardrooms and discuss, like, how are we going to remain relevant in the workforce if we don't make some, I'm not going to even say changes, I'm going to use the word adjustments, right? Everyone's looking for this hard line. I'm sorry, the world is gray. There is no black and white when it comes to this stuff. There is no, oh yeah, Bryan's this recruiting guru and he knows everything. No. I don't pretend to know that stuff. But I think the best method is to start with those conversations.
Interesting. So again, where my mind goes, and this is maybe off a little bit to the side, rabbit trailing a bit, but where my mind goes is we are constantly adapting and adjusting our marketing to people as communities change, as our client or our customer base changes. Like that's common sense. It's common sense to adjust our message. It's common sense to adjust our product to make sure it's fitting who our ideal customers or clients are. Why are we so resistant to adapting or adjusting for the people that we're hiring? What do you think is going on there? Do you have any thoughts?
That's a really good question. That's a really good question, Mark. My first thought is, when it comes to people's strategies, I think everyone has their own unique perspective. And what is perspective really? It's all these collective, unique experiences that we've lived through in our life that kind of forms our perspectives and our perceptions, right? And I think it's really hard for people in general. And then, I know we've talked in the past, and you have, a psychology degree, and we all think we're the center of attention, right? And a lot of folks aren't aware that their perception sometimes just needs a little bit of a shift of perspective. And I find, a lot of folks who they're open to it, but it's almost like, hey, I know this is a problem, but I don't know what the solution is. So rather than tread water or sink a little bit, I'm just going to keep on doggy paddling forward.
It's interesting because
it's scary. It's scary, right?
And it's again common. This is a common experience with humans. Why do we procrastinate? We don't know what to do. We don't know how to do it, or we've got something emotional going on based on our past that gets in the way, right? Like those are the only reasons why we don't do something. And you're saying, yes, that happens with businesses as well. We get into routines. We don't know how to change. We don't know what to do, how to do it, or we go, hey, I'm uncomfortable with this right now, which is true for humans, which I like, because it's not about businesses being good or bad. It's going, hey, we're humans, and we will have this at times. It affects all of us at times. Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so there was another part of that I wanted to ask here, or maybe comment on. What I'm hearing you say is, when you want to connect with your customers or clients, what do? You get to know them. If you want to make great hires, get to know them. Take the time. So maybe here's the other half of my question. You've obviously jumped into this stuff. You are a student, and Bryan, I know you off air. So legitimately, I know that you are a voracious learner. You're always learning. You're always growing. You're always trying to figure this stuff out. Just when it comes to generations, because this part of the conversation is really interesting to me, and I believe it'll be interesting to others. If somebody wants to jump into this and just get lost down the rabbit trail of what makes up a generation, what are the commonalities of different generations, where are some places they can go? What are some resources that you give them that just helps them explore this on their own a little bit?
Yeah, great question, Mark. I usually start with Census, Statistics Canada. And you can go down that rabbit hole as far as you want. It's just so many interesting insights. I'll tell you one that I recently picked up on. Well, not recently. I mean, this was probably a few years ago, but about probably back in 2020, we start seeing these massive shortages of labor. And it wasn't just the trade skills. There's always been this shortage in trade skills, journeyman, right? And then we start seeing, obviously, the effects in hospitality after COVID happened. Student enrollment rates for culinary were just because there's no security in that role, right? Like anyone who was events management, weddings, social events, completely shut down. Everyone got laid off, furloughed, whatever you want to call it, but you didn't have a job, right? And what was really interesting, as I kind of looked at it from a big picture, and I talked to all my academic connections and just say, hey, how's student enrollment rates happening? And they're like, it's still kind of, on the downside. But what's really fascinating is, why I say Stats Canada is because I asked myself the question, why is there a labor shortage across Canada? And I talked to so many executives, I talked to so many consultants, people who are in these high caliber, big titles, assuming big compensation type folks. And everyone had their own assumptions. I found in Stats Canada, looking at child birth rates, I went down a rabbit hole and I was like, hey, interesting. In 1973, we were at 3.8 kids per family. And in 2021, we're at 1.2. So over this 50-year period, all these bodies that should have been born were never born. And that's why we have massive shortages. It's not, trade skills lost its sexiness, or, insurance companies aren't, pushing the right marketing program to entice people to want to work in insurance. It has nothing to do with that. It's just the body was never born. And there's so many people still under this false assumptions, or I wouldn't say false assumption. They're creating their own narrative of why something is. And I'm just like, no, stop creating a narrative. Just go look at the hard data. And if you don't believe me, hey, anyone here is like, oh yeah, Bryan sounds intelligent and it could be right. Go look it up yourself.
Yep.
It's available to us all.
Yep.
And I'm really excited to see 2026 census data come out and seeing what are some of the material changes, right? And there's just so much. And like, yes, are we talking about recruiting? Yes, but you have to understand what's happening in greater society if you want to be very strong at recruitment, right? And
again, I appreciate this on so many levels, because I was, I guess, assuming that you're going to give me like, oh, read these 2 books or listen to this or whatever. Go back to the source. I mean, this is what you're going to get the best information if you go to the source. Go to just become. This is what I heard, at least. Get really curious. Ask lots of questions. Spend a bit of time. I remember when I lived in China, I would, my wife and I. This is again before Wikipedia. We would, for fun. You're going to appreciate this because you're a bit nerdy in this way too. We would have an encyclopedic dictionary. And we would look something up because we were curious about it, and it would lead to something else. So we'd look something else up, and that would lead to something else. So we'd look something else up, and we could spend 20, 30 minutes in an encyclopedic dictionary just going like, this is fascinating, right? So I think that's maybe another part of this is going. So you can read a book or listen to something quick, or you can go, hey, I want to get a really good handle on this. And I'm gonna spend not an hour down the rabbit hole. I'm gonna spend a few months down the rabbit hole, and I'm gonna ask questions. I'm gonna get to know my future workforce. I'm gonna get to know them in different ways. I'm gonna interview. I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna hang out with. I'm going to read about and learn about That's going to be, in my mind, a much more holistic way of understanding a group of people that I'm going to be working with, and I'm going to be hiring, and I'm going to be doing life with on so many levels. So. Yeah, I appreciate that answer. This interview has actually gone in like 2 or 3 directions that I thought it would never go, Bryan. Not because it's good or bad, just because I wasn't expecting it. And that's something I really appreciate about people in general. That if we are curious, to prove the point a little bit, if we practice curiosity, we can go to a place that we didn't expect and actually learn a ton.
Yeah.
Thank you for this. I'm looking at the time and going, hey, we're getting a little bit long on time right now. But Bryan, I really appreciate this. I appreciate you taking the time to think through these things with me. This wasn't prepared, right? We had a couple of ideas that we had prepared a little bit. We went down different directions, and I appreciate the thoughtfulness from industry, from experience, from all of that, but also just the fact that you were. It shows that you were ready to nerd out on Stats Canada. Every 5 years, you lock yourself in a room for a few months and explore.
Well, you asked you know what? You asked really great questions, right? And I think that's what it comes down to. Because people will ask, when you're in the consulting hat, right? Everyone expects you to have the answer to everything. And actually, what I found was, I don't have the answer, but I help unpack the answer in your mind by just asking another great question. And I think that's what's missing in today's society. We're all looking for answers, and we're not asking enough great questions. And then we ask one good question, and then we assume, oh, that's it. That's our narrative. Now let's make $1 million. And it's just like, whoa, it's not that simplistic.
Which again goes back to the point that we were mentioning there is instead of assuming, instead of creating the narrative and then just letting the confirmation bias machine run wild. Take time and learn. Take time and study. It's always easier to judge or assume than to dig into what's actually going on. But as employers, we need to dig into it. If we want to outpace our competition, we need to dig into it. If we want to continue to succeed, we need to dig into it, which again, I appreciate on some levels. It's something that is not an easy answer, but it is fairly simple. Take the time, dig into it, grow and learn, right?
Right. 100%.
Okay. Again, Bryan, thank you so much for this. Perspectives are something that I really appreciate, and getting different perspectives and getting a different answer than sometimes what I'm looking for is such a gift. So thank you.
Well, very welcome.